It's now my pleasure to introduce the always energetic President and CEO of Community First Fund, Daniel Betancourt, who has a few remarks to share with us.
Good afternoon. Thank you, David. Thank you for being a board member, and thank you for being the MC today. We appreciate that. Let me first start by congratulating our three awardees. You heard a lot from them, and you see why we're so proud of them, and that's Ruth DeVinny, Mary Kay Bernotsky, and Amara Ricci. They're an inspiration to us all. So again, thank you for your support of them and providing this inspiration to us. Let me also acknowledge the amazing work of our board and our staff. You should know how committed they are throughout the year. So again, thank you for your commitment. And let me also thank Joan Broadhead, who's our Chief Operating Officer, for your support throughout the year. 2 years ago, at our 20th anniversary, you may recall that I shared our founders' vision and their story, men and women of conviction who believed in economic justice and giving everyone a fair chance. And last year, you may recall that I challenged you to keep the legacy alive by building a staircase of opportunity. And this year, we have another big audience with us today. Over 500 of you are here today. Thank you. We had to move from upstairs because we had so many individuals. So thank you for honoring our work and being here today. You know, it's not the size of the crowd that impresses me today. It's who is here. And do you know who's here today? Because I think I know I do. The people in this room remind me of a quote from one of my heroes. You may have heard of him, Nelson Mandela. And Nelson said, "Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity, it is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, and it could be overcome and eradicated by the actions of human beings. Sometimes it falls in a generation to be great. You can be that great generation," Nelson said. When I first read that quote, I thought about Tom Brokaw's book, The Greatest Generation, a story about those who served in World War II. They were great because they had a big challenge ahead of them, didn't they? Yet today, we in this room and folks across this nation and this region face a challenge as well, in its own way, just as daunting as theirs was. It's a challenge of finally leveling the playing field that had never been leveled before, about truly creating equal opportunity for those that need it, like people of color and women, and those living in poverty. Looking at those of you in this room, I believe we have a chance to be great if we choose to step up. Well, what does it take? Well, Mandela said it, didn't he? Overcoming poverty is not a task of charity. It is an act of justice. Well, what's the difference? Well, charity is about giving. It's about improving. We feel good, and it's important, and we should always give. But when we talk about justice, we're not just talking about improving things. We're talking about fixing something. And that something is generational poverty. I recently attended a conference in May of this year in Philadelphia at the Federal Reserve Conference, and there was a discussion centered around rebuilding older cities in Pennsylvania, cities like York and Harrisburg and Reading. The presenter highlighted a Harvard study that measured the chances of overcoming poverty in America. The study showed that children who grow up in certain communities are the least likely to overcome poverty in America. But what jumped out at me about that Harvard study was that the vast majority of poor people in America live in the South. Big region of generational poverty in the southern United States. And to me, that represented a legacy of slavery today, 150 years after the Civil War, and we're still talking about vast parts of the United States living in poverty. And do you know the single greatest determining factor of success in America today? It's the zip code that you were born in, and that's just not acceptable. When we look at this region, we can be proud of an amazing, strong regional economy. And that's a wonderful thing. But when you look closer to this region, we see pockets of poverty that also have generational poverty there in the cities across this region. We all know that. We know what's happening there. Where a child has a very little chance of overcoming poverty, in his or her lifetime. That should not be acceptable to anyone in this room. So here's a question that I bring to you today. Are we going to make things a little bit better, or do we want to fix it? Because if we want to change the playing field and be the great generation Nelson said, we've got to make a difference and make it happen on our own in this region. We took part in a study earlier this year by the University of Pennsylvania. They studied two very successful cities in Pennsylvania, up and coming and doing a great job. And they were Bethlehem and Lancaster. They saw many fantastic things happening, private leadership working with public leadership, lots of great things happening. But they studied prior economic development plans, and what they found that they did not emphasize the elimination of poverty. Nothing, no mention in these plans, very little. I challenge all the leaders and everyone in this room, all the stakeholders across the cities in this region to change that. We've got to get serious about that. New economic development plans must have a strategy that creates economic opportunities by increasing income and providing a better career path for poor people. Focusing on increasing income for poor people is exactly what we do at Community First Fund. Economic development is not just about redevelopment of downtown. It has to be about the people that live in the neighborhood. People just like Armando Martinez Gonzalez, who came here from Mexico 10 years ago for a better life. He took on a job as a waiter in this region, and he worked his way up to becoming the manager of Roxy's Cafe. You may have heard of it. It's right across the street from the Capitol. I know the mayor knows it very well because he goes there. A few years ago, as I said, he moved up, and the owner offered to sell him the business. It was a wonderful opportunity for him to buy that business, but he only had a few $1,000s, not enough to buy the business. And with help and a loan from Community First Fund, he now knows every day he sits across from the Capitol building, he knows he's part of the American dream. You can read the rest of Armando's story in the annual report right there with you. I'd ask that you take it with you. But you can read other stories like Armando's in the annual report. Armando, I know you're in the back there. Please stand up so we can acknowledge you. Armando, you're part of the great generation. You're helping us level the playing field, so thank you. There are others in this region that are making a difference, like hometown hero Charlie Crystal, who graduated from McCaskey High School, and he had a very successful technology career in Silicon Valley. But he came back here to this region because he wanted to make a difference. He wanted to be counted. He told me a few years ago that I want to build a business for people who don't get a break, who can't find work, people that have a police record and those who are underemployed. And he said to me at that time, that way, if I succeed, we all succeed. And this year we provided him a loan to start the Lancaster Food Company. You may have seen his bread outside and the bread at your table there you've been eating. It's a bakery with a social mission. It's already a huge success, and they're hiring employees every day. You may have seen their bread being sold at supermarkets across the region. I think Mr. Brown is considering it as well. What's more, every employee will own a piece of that business. As I said, they make great bread. You've been eating it at lunch. Charlie, where are you? You're in the back. Stand up there so we can acknowledge you. And thank you for donating the bread today. And thank you, Charlie, for being part of the great generation that Mandela talked about. Today, I'm asking you to support the work of our founders who believed in providing an opportunity and a fair chance for everyone. And you know what I'm going to ask you next, right? I'm going to ask that you take the bread out of your pocket and add it to the empty basket at your table, just like Charlie did. So go ahead and take a moment and find those envelopes. You've provided excellent support for us over the years. If you look at our annual report, you'll see lots and lots of names of support from around this region. So please take a moment, fill that out. And if you want to make a pledge here because you're going to make a donation during the extraordinary give, that's wonderful too. Okay, let's go ahead and fill them up. There's lots of other ways to contribute in addition to a contribution. You can spread the word of Community First Fund. You can take copies of the annual report with you and share with others like Armando and Charlie, people who have a dream and need a chance to succeed. Tell them about our work so we can help them. I'm always honored to speak before you, and today's no difference. And in closing, let me say, I know that all of you are leaders in your own right in this room. You're business owners, you work at an employer, civic leaders, you're elected officials, you volunteer. You can make a difference in your community, and you have influence in your community. Let's make sure that all stakeholders focus on the elimination of poverty in your town. All the cities in this region should have a strategy that focuses on increasing income, providing a better career path for poor people in this region. We should accept nothing less than that. And as Mandela said, poverty is not natural, it is man-made. I don't believe anyone in this room caused poverty, but I believe we can all fix it if we get determined. We can be that great generation that Mandela talked about. Thank you.